Alright, so what are name servers and why do you care? We could get in the weeds on this one pretty quickly, but for intensive purposes we just need to know a few things about name servers. Really just a couple things. One is they look like this, and I'll show an example on the screen right now. Two is your domain will likely already have name servers set up, like we said in the previous video, provided by your hosting company typically. For example, when I purchase a domain from Google, the name servers, they just use Google's name servers, and they'll be Google's name servers, and they work great. And while we can change these, it can be left alone for most purposes. So the last thing we need to understand is that wherever that name server is pointed, we'll decide where we can configure those domains. And when once we've verified where our name servers are going, we can look at at the DNS. So the DNS is essentially how you configure those domains. So if the name servers are Google and domain is Google, simply navigate to the Google DNS section, and I'll show you how to do that in just a second. So what is DNS? Why should you care about that? DNS stands for Domain Name System. This is where you can make your website show up from your domain. Also, you can use this area to configure any records for email services. Okay, now that we have picked and purchased our domain, it's now time to understand a little bit more about the back end a little bit, as well as the DNS section. So what I'll do, I'll jump into the DNS section. So I've gone ahead and signed back into Google Domains. You can see zachsalamas.com. Here's my shiny new domain that I just purchased just minutes ago. And what we'll do is we'll jump over to the DNS section here. I'll click on DNS. And we talked about name servers a while back, maybe a video or two ago. This is where you can configure the name servers. Right now we're using the Google name servers like we mentioned. In the past, when you purchase a domain, typically it will go ahead and just set you up with the name servers that it has available. In this instance, we purchased through Google, so we're using the Google name servers. These are actually the name servers, ns-cloud-c2.googledomains.com, and you have C1, C2, C3, and C4. So this is a good example of what the name servers look like. If you wanted to use different name servers, for example, if you wanted to use different name servers, you could simply click this button and type in the name server, hit the plus sign, and just add them all in. But what we'll do is we'll keep the Google name servers so that we can handle all the DNS right here in the same spot. Keeps it simple and easy. Another thing to consider is DNSSEC. This will protect your domain from cache poison attacks and DNS spoofing, as you can see right here. You can always learn more by clicking the link. It's something quick and easy to do. You simply click enable, and it is enabled. It takes about 2 hours to actually complete, as you can see, but certainly something worth doing. It takes 2 seconds. All right, getting to the registered hosts section. There's not a lot here really that we'll need for our purposes, as well as synthetic records. This is also used for domain forwarding and has to do with G Suite and a couple other things. The only section that we will ever really mess with is the traditional DNS section, which is where we enter custom resource records, and that's here at the bottom. So you'll notice right now there are no records entered, and there's essentially, if you were to navigate to zachsalamas.com, it says this site can't be reached because it pretty much stopped at the DNS level because it can't search further than that. There are no DNS records. So essentially what the internet does is it goes to this domain and says, hey, what DNS records do you have? What do you have? What am I supposed to do when I'm navigating to your domain? And since there's nothing entered, it doesn't know what to do. And that's why it's given us this DNS probe. So another example is if you wanted to change where the DNS is configured. In this example, we will change the name servers to Vulture, and then from there we can see it we will now configure the domain's DNS through Vultre's port. So I'll show you how to do that. One quick note also, Vultre offers free DNS, so if you don't have a DNS provider, I recommend using Vultre. Just point your name servers to Vultre and use the DNS services that they provide if whatever domain you purchase doesn't come with a DNS service. Just real quick, I wanted to show you another example of what DNS looks like just in another provider. This is not Google, this is Vultre, which is a cloud server option that you can use when you're coding or otherwise. I love Vultre, and this is what the DNS looks like for one of my domains. I'll try to black out some sections I probably shouldn't show you, but this is overall what it looks like. You'll notice there's a bunch of different records here. They're called DNS records. This is the record type. We have A records, CNAME records, and MX record. One more quick thing on DNS about how it works. So the way DNS works is there are records that you are adding to your DNS for your domain that perform different functions. Like I mentioned, they can handle your email access or your email services, as well as where your domain is and where your website is hosted. For our purposes, we'll mostly use what's called an A record, or focus on an A record, which can be used to make your website show up. Before we add this record, we'll want to have an IP to add. So we'll return to the DNS section once our website is ready to be hosted from this domain. So first, we'll get our hosting set up, and as part of the hosting setup, we'll get an IP, then we can drop the IP into this DNS section. So let's get started. Great, we're moving right along. So you found a good domain and you understand the basics of DNS and how to use your domain. Next we'll cover how to set up your website hosting service and start a basic website so that we can join that website to your domain with the shiny new DNS A record. Alright, so let's knock it out.